Joining us now in the studio is Dr. Arne Rubinstein. He is an expert on all things adolescence. In fact, he knows his stuff when it comes to particularly boys transitioning to become men. He's also a doctor, a mentor, a counsellor, and we're very blessed to have him in the studio. Dr. Arne Rubinstein, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure, nice to be here.
Yes, and I know you actually wrote the book, The Making of Men.
I did.
And are generously giving away some copies to our viewers. And I've got a copy too, so do get your copy. Give us a call here at thetable.tv.com. But Dr. Arne, I just want to know, with a lot of men these days, like we hear in the news all the time, people like Don Burke and Winterstein in America, the incidences of sexual abuse and women being degenerated, I guess, and sexually objectified. What do you think, in your view or in your opinion, is going on?
I think we have a massive problem, and our work is about looking at the stereotypes that have been around for a long time with men and saying, OK, how can we change this? You know, how can we help our boys to become leaders of the future, to become really good men? And part of being a good man is respecting women, respecting other men, being good fathers. You know, we need good men. We need good men and we need good women.
I know in your book you talk about that transition when a boy becomes a man. What are the differences? Notably, we know that there's physical traits, obviously, when they become a man.
Yeah.
But how can we help that transition?
Well, we wrote a model, and it's in the book, and we talk about classical boy behaviour and classical healthy man behaviour. And for those of you who have young boys, so normal boy behaviour is I'm the centre of the universe, I need acknowledgement, look at me, I can't control my emotions, if something goes wrong I have a temper tantrum, and I want a mother. And that's beautiful in a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, all of that. But healthy man behaviour is, it's not just about me, I'm part of a community, powers for sharing, I can handle my emotions, and I'm not looking for a mother, I'm looking for relationship. And I have a big concern, and some of you women may actually have even met a man who still thinks he's the centre of the universe, is still looking for acknowledgement and power, and still wants a mother. And the
mummy's boys?
Yeah,
the clingy types?
All of that. And so our work is about how can we support boys to go in a healthy way through a transition from boy to young man.
So how do you support that? Like, I know you're doing camps, is that right?
Yeah, that's part of it. A lot of my research was around the fact that in Australia, boys under 12 are doing very well, and then we have this terrible spike in their well-being at around 15, 16, which is also when the suicide rates peak and when the risk-taking behaviour and the mental health issues. And it's like, OK, so what's going on? How can this be happening? And then we looked into communities all over the world, Indigenous communities, traditional communities, and they all would have had some way of recognising and celebrating boys becoming young men.
Right.
So we run camps at our property, but we also work in a lot of schools now around the country and around the world. We're in 10 countries around the world looking at how we can actually create programs to support the transition, not only boys to young men, but girls to young women.
You talk about these rites of passage in your books and a lot of your teachings. What exactly is involved in these rites of passage, and why is it so important?
OK, so when we looked at communities all over the world, what we found was that not only did they all do a rite of passage, but they all did the same things. So they would always share stories. They would share stories of their history as a way of passing on wisdom and knowledge. The boys would always go through some sort of challenge. They would create a vision for the future. And importantly, each of them would be acknowledged for their individual gifts, talent, genius, spirit, however you want to describe that. So we've looked at that and said, OK, so can we in schools and in community groups find ways to have elders sharing stories with children, instead of telling the boys how to live their lives, actually sharing our real experiences and them learning from hearing those stories. Creating challenges for the boys.
Is that what they need? Is that what these boys are missing?
It's part of it.
Right.
Anytime, if we can connect the young boys with elders, there are two things that happen. First of all, the boys gain wisdom and the elders get energy, which is what they both need. So it's a very beautiful thing to do, and it's that mentoring thing. But importantly, we're not telling them how to live their lives. We're talking about our lives, you know, and our successes and our failures. You know, we're talking about relationships. We actually talk about sex. I don't want my boys learning about, you know, sex from porn on their phones. I want them to have healthy, respectful relationships with elders at the right time.
I love this idea that you talk about where the elders are getting energy also from the
Yeah.
boys. I have a question though about mothers. So
Yes.
sometimes once we get to this idea of a boy becoming a man, this idea of him being connected to his mom can somehow then be looked down upon. What role does a mother still have in that boy's development?
It's such a good question, and it's so important because we want our young men to have fabulous and healthy relationships with their mothers forever, but we want them to have a different relationship from what they had when they were 6 years old. So when the boys are young, typically a mother's very involved, knows every single thing that's going on with their boy, knows when they need to go to the toilet, knows, everything. And we talk about a relationship that moves from mothering to more one of being available and having it's a more mentoring type relationship. So mum won't know everything that's going on with her teenage boy.
Which can be scary for a mother.
Yes, but we also say mums don't actually want to know everything that's going on for their teenage boys, but it's so important is that they're there, that they're available, that they still spend good time together, but it's a different sort of relationship. And if we don't change the relationship, what I see and what can be so sad is the boys will actually push their mothers away and they'll reject them and stop sharing, and that's really not good. So the boy needs to change as he becomes a young man, and the mother's relationship needs to change as well.
So does the mom initiate that change, or?
Does she need to take a step back, or
Well, I would say it's more a step to the side rather than a step back. And
more of a supportive role?
yeah, and part of our work is when we do these camps, we'll often run camps with fathers and sons, but involving the mothers as well. And we usually around, say, 14, 15, and we create an opportunity where the mothers can share with their boys about when they were young and about the story of when they were growing up, and then actually even talk about what sort of relationship they want to have going forwards and what things they're going to change. And we challenge the boys to go, as a young man, what sort of son are you going to be? And what behaviours do you need to let go of in order to be the best young man that you can be?
So you run these Making of Men and leadership camps.
Yeah.
What can people expect leaving these camps? What are the benefits of attending one of these camps?
Well, we did some research. We did some independent research on a group of boys who'd been on a camp compared to a group of boys who hadn't been on a camp 3 years after the program. And what they found statistically significant was that the boys who'd been on camps had more respect for women, better relationships with their fathers, a greater desire to go on to tertiary education, and more motivation to get involved in community work.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So significant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big thing.
It's fascinating about boys, but have you done any research into girls? Do the same principles apply at all, or is that something you'll study further, perhaps?
Yes, no, it's very interesting. So girls would also go through some sort of process, an initiation or rite of passage, but what I love about what happened with the girls is in a lot of the communities, when they went through their rite of passage, they would be given a woman from outside of their family who would become a mentor and support them through their teenage years, which I think is brilliant. And the other thing is, a part of the challenge that the girls went through, they would do it as a group, and the ultimate aim was for the girls to learn to trust their inner knowing and wisdom.
Sorry, can I ask you a question? Why is it brilliant to bring in another mentor and not necessarily have the mum take them through that passage?
I think it's both, but I think there's a time for girls and boys where they need people outside of their family who they can also talk to. We talk about it, we need the whole community raising all of the children. So if there's a time when one of your girls can't speak to me, so he can't speak to you, hopefully she can go to Fiona. Hopefully, you're all actually raising each other's children, and when you can do what's needed, great, but that they have other support networks.
Definitely takes a village. So when we talk about going back to the boys, what happens when they don't transition to becoming a man and they're they're a man, but they're not obviously taking on the traits that a man should be?
Yeah, so they're in a man's body, but they're still in a boy's mindset. Well, when they're like that, they're thinking about themselves. They see women as objects. It's about power. It's not about the good of the community. It's about how much I can get for myself. I think it's a big problem. And I look at some of our leaders and some of the elections that have been held.
How can we help men like that?
Well, I think having discussions is a very good thing. You can give them a copy of my book.
Yeah.
We are about challenging men. We are challenging men and saying, what sort of man are you going to be? What sort of man are you? And what behaviours do you know that you have that no longer serve if you're going to be the best man that you can be?
Yeah, some people would say that, men don't mature until they're maybe in their 30s. Do you think that it's too early for boys to be transitioning into being men, in their early teenage years?
I think it's about starting the discussions. So we don't say that after they've been on one of our programs that they're men who've got it all sorted out and know everything. We say they've gone from being big boys to baby men, and they're starting their journey. And hopefully they have other men and women who they can talk to.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're thinking about it. Hopefully they're looking at how they can serve in their communities, and that they want to become good men.
Yeah. I have to thank Dr. Arnie Rubenstein for generously offering this book, The Making of Men. He's the author of this. You need to email us on hello@thetabletv.com to get your free copy that Dr. Arnie has generously given us. Where can people get information about the camps that you're talking about?
From our website, The Making of Men, which is the same name as the book, just to keep it simple, has information about our programs, our camps. We have junior programs. There's also a resource there. People can find out about other programs happening around the country and mother-daughter programs.
So around the country, where exactly are they? Are they here in Australia or?
Yeah, well, there are a number of groups that we train a lot of people now in understanding what a rite of passage is and how to create something in their community. And one of our goals is that if people are looking for a program, that we can support them to find something.
So how many boys have you put through, sorry to keep going, but how many boys have you put through the program now, and girls, and how many success stories have you had? Can you share any with us?
Sure. Well, we've had over 100,000 people come through our programs in Australia and in 10 countries around the world. And in terms of success stories, my favourite that I've seen so many times is I see a father and his son arrive at a camp, and they're standing there and it's like they're strangers and they really don't know each other anymore, and it's awkward. And then after a few days of sharing stories at the end of the program and doing everything we do, we have something we do where one at a time each of the boys will sit on a special chair facing all the other men and boys who are on the program, and while they're sitting there, their father will come up and in front of everyone tell his son what he loves about him.
Wow.
What he's proud of. What he's proud of.
Because in a culture where we don't really have that, lovey-dovey conversations with our loved ones.
Especially
so you
for
do
men.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, and you
especially for
see
men.
them change, you see them grow, you see something. Sometimes the fathers will cry. It's just so powerful and so beautiful.
Everyone wants to feel that value from the person they love
Yeah.
and respect,
Yeah, and I want to give you an example of just how powerful it can be. So let's take Fiona, for example, who's been hosting the show today. I would love to hear from you women who've been working with her all this time. What's one or two things that you particularly love about Fiona, and one of the interesting gifts or skills or not so obvious, beautiful, wonderful things about her that you've seen?
Well, besides the fact that you're a wonderful mother, you're so witty, you're so great with words, you're so confident and so great on camera.
Oh, thanks, Rach. I'm definitely a blooper trooper. That's
And and Fiona's not allowed to say anything, by the way,
sorry.
while
Okay,
this
I can't help
happens.
myself.
She has to just listen.
Yeah, this is too easy. I just find you such a massive support in this role, and you are so encouraging and you're so easy to relate to. It's so nice to have that.
Yeah, I think you're one of the most genuine people I know. You're just, what you see is what you get. There's no, ulterior motives or anything. You're just
I just want to cry, guys.
awesome person.
So we'll move on to the next one.
And I've only known you for half an hour, and I just see what a beautiful spirit you are, and how bright you are in your eyes, and how passionate you are about this work, and how lovingly you talk about your children and your partner, and you're a special woman, and it's obvious.
Okay, let's move on to the next. I'm about to burst out in tears, ladies.
But imagine if we could get every boy and girl in Australia sitting in a chair in front of their peers and older people and their parents and their friends and people who know them, telling them what they love about them.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It changes their lives.
Is this a one-off thing, or is this something that should occur again and again as they're becoming a man?
I think we can't do it too often. I mean, I would encourage everyone who's watching this show to find a space and tell your children, tell your partners, find an opportunity to tell them what you love about them, what gifts you see, what their genius, their talent and their spirit is.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arnie. Thank you, ladies. You are all beautiful and wonderful and dear to my heart as well. But look, we have to say goodbye. We hope you can join us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, thetabletv.com. Until next time, all the best. God bless.